Hello everyone, welcome back to the lift with your auntie Sheila Robinson-Kiss. We're out here at the park. We're ready for yet another walk. See, I switched to the boots here because the winter is upon us, everyone. We knew it was coming. We're going to start out the way we always do. Again, this is the channel. We've got it all. Mental health, movement, motivation, and the best relationship advice around. Go ahead and make your wish on our wishing well, the water well. Wishes, dreams, hopes come true every single day. So don't stop wishing and hoping. Okay, let's get going. You got your shoes ready here. Let's start out on our walk. Today I'm dealing with part 2. This is a part 2 on arrested development. When the body grows up and the mind does not. Again, this is a part 2 video message for all of us here. And the reason I decided to do part 2, I'm getting a lot of letters, and the focal point is emotional maturity and emotional immaturity. And I thought let's tackle this the best way possible, get a message out to everyone. Gordon recently sent me a note. He's in a relationship with a woman, getting ready to terminate and break that off because he's seeing some concerning behaviors around a lack of emotional maturity. Okay, and at some point I'm going to do a full treatment on emotional intelligence, because emotional maturity and emotional intelligence go hand in hand. But before we really dive in, I want to give you some strategies. If you are a person, if you're dealing with someone who is emotionally immature, if you're dealing with this individual, or if you have gotten into the seat of truth and you're looking in the mirror and you say, you know what, Sheila, I myself, I am immature. I have some things to deal with in that area. Hey, you're in the right spot. Bundle yourself up and let's keep walking together. Now, I'm going to start out because I want us all to be on the same page here. So let's clarify. Let's clarify a few things. What are the signs of an emotionally mature person? Let's start in that place. Number 1, emotionally mature people, they enjoy a level of impulse control and they can delay gratification. Number 1. 2, someone who is emotionally mature, it's not a big deal to admit when they're wrong. Okay? Clear communication. Emotionally mature people can handle advice and feedback even when it's unpleasant. That does not threaten this person. They set up boundaries and they respect boundaries. They are self-reflective and aware. And probably my favorite characteristic about an emotionally mature person is they are flexible with plans and ideas. So, if you think about what is an emotionally immature person, it's quite the opposite. I can go down the same list and flip it. Emotionally immature folks, it's really all about reaction. Constantly in a state of reaction. You will find, if you're dealing with someone who is emotionally immature, it is like pulling teeth and almost painful for this individual to admit that he or she is wrong. Clear communication is often non-existent, because what they will do is get cagey, foggy around communication. Often people will tell me, I just don't know where I stand. Plans, rules changing. So it's very disconcerting. I've worked with a number of emotionally immature people over the years. One tall tale sign, this is what you want to look for: cannot handle feedback. Feedback, particularly if it's unpleasant, is looked at as very threatening. Oftentimes, an emotionally immature person has set up a firm idea in their head of who and what they are in this world. And the problem is their definition, how they identify themselves. A lot of other people across circumstances don't see them that way. So it's such a rigid picture of themselves they've painted. When it is challenged, it's really deeply hurtful for them, and it throws them off. And that's when you'll get into gaslighting behavior, aggressive behavior. They turn things around. It's very confusing for the people who are on the receiving end. And to be honest, sometimes it's frightening for the people who are on the receiving end. Emotionally immature people, boundaries can often go unacknowledged. If the boundaries conflict with their convenience and what they want, there's a problem there. And this one I really want you to pay attention to, because it's at the very core of why emotionally immature people run into problems, and the people in their lives are often frustrated. Catch this one. There is a general lack of self-awareness. And that's a problem, because whatever you won't look at and become aware of, someone in the audience tell me, how are you supposed to change it? So here's the crux of the matter right there. A lacking of self-reflection and awareness. And generally, emotionally immature people, not all the time, but generally, there's a rigidity and there is a lack of flexibility. A lack of flexibility where it comes to plans, lack of flexibility and understanding that people are different. It's not a cookie cutter. People's needs do change. Everyone, we're at the root tree. Go ahead and make your second wish at the root tree. Very important. Remember to stay true. Stay true to your roots. Okay, let's journey on. So now that we have that checklist out of the way, and we made the checklist on what does it mean to be emotionally mature and what does it mean to be emotionally immature, let me share some core ideas with you. I want to give you 3 things that if you yourself say, Sheila, you know what? That sounds like me. I need to really get up to speed here in terms of my emotional maturity. I'm going to give you 3 things if you fall into that category. And then I'm going to give you something if you're the person who is dealing with someone who is emotionally immature, they're not willing to look at themselves. I'm going to give you some strategy on how you can maintain your mental health and continue to move forward in life with as minimal frustration as possible. So my number one tip, if you're looking to grow levels of emotional maturity, is examine yourself. Take a look at yourself. We celebrate our strengths and we acknowledge our weaknesses and challenges. That really requires taking a look at your history. taking a look at your history. I mean, as you know, a woman who has grown in the area of emotional maturity over the years, I can tell you in all honesty, because look, when we know better, we do better, and emotionally mature people can own it. There certainly was a time in my life where emotional immaturity, it was just front and center. Saying things, doing things, reacting in ways that were not healthy for my life, not healthy for people in my life. What did that come from? I had to look at my history when I get really serious about, you know what, I want to take this walk as a loving woman, upright, but also healed and walking in my truth. I had to own a couple things. I had to own that growing up I had very little guidance. There was a high level of emotional neglect. And see, this was the perfect trifecta, because I was also a highly emotional child. You put all of that together, and you're going to have someone, when they come out into the world, that has to do a lot of calming and deep healing and reflection and work. And so I had to own that. And what I would say to anyone listening, I mean, you gotta own your history. Take the wonderful, wonderful aspects, and we acknowledge that. We acknowledge it fully. But also, the things that trip you up, here's a hint that you may need to work on emotional maturity. Maybe someone has mentioned that to you in the past. Maybe you have something that constantly trips you up. There's a way that you're thinking about life that doesn't keep you moving forward, and it keeps you stuck in a debilitating pattern. I'll give you an example. I worked with a couple some years ago in my practice, and the fights, the arguments they were having were literally over. It could be where the leftovers, if they weren't put away properly, it could be you were a few minutes late to pick me up. It could be I wanted to watch this movie and we watched something different. It was extremely petty, extremely immature, and kept this marriage for almost 15 years in just a constant state of bickering, not talking, turning off, coming back on. I had both of them to sit down. Look at your history, look at your past, and what they both discovered. They grew up with a very dysfunctional communication pattern. Both of their parents, dysfunctional communication, could go months without any real conversation, very shut down emotionally, and they had adopted that same immature pattern. They had to stop, see it, and take ownership of it. And a lot of times these emotionally immature individuals, again, full transparency, I was one of them at a point. This stuff really mostly originates in childhood. And if someone had a particular trauma, say this individual was 8 or 9 years old when they had that trauma, if they didn't get some help to heal that trauma, then you're in trouble. You see what I'm saying? If you didn't get the help to heal, to address it, there's a part of you that is stuck and stunted at that 8 or 9 year old. That's how you get, people in their 40s and 50s, some in their 30s, and they're acting like they're 9 or 10. Responses that you may see in a child: anger, aggression, temper tantrums, shutting down. So you have to be able to see that and own the destructive pattern. Number 2, this is key because what really has perplexed me over the years, people think, well, let me announce what number 2 is. Number 2 is you need to have a plan, an active, live plan to support your healing. It needs to be an active, living, breathing plan to support your healing. Going to a therapist and sitting for 40 or 50 minutes and chit-chatting, that's not an active, live plan for healing. That does nothing without implementation. Absolutely nothing without implementation. It requires a plan. And a plan could include, you could heal in a variety of ways. Information you find on YouTube, book. It could be a therapist, but any of that without some measures of accountability, you're going to be in the same place that you were if you start and 24 months ago, you haven't put in a plan and active and you're doing things to hold yourself accountable, you're going to be exactly where you started. Because there's nothing to measure. Am I moving forward? Am I taking care of myself? Am I looking in the mirror? So some of the things that I do, I'm a prolific, I like to write and journal, dealing with my emotions that way. I told you about my technique of emptying out. I like to make sure that I'm doing my daily alignment work, and that it involves consistent reviews, asking myself questions is powerful, and that's done, again, it's on a consistent basis. I do the EFT, emotional freedom technique, make sure my body is calm where it needs to be, working out consistently. All those measures taken together make a difference. I incorporated a 24-hour rule. If I'm upset, I make sure I don't respond. I give it 24 hours. And then, all due diligence and fairness, if I have to have a conversation, even if it's hard, because I learned dealing with my own arrested development, there was a pattern of not communicating. There's a pattern of sitting on important information, going along with things to get along that I didn't want. I didn't want to go along with, but I felt, okay, I better do this because that's how I grew up. Don't ask questions. It's because we said so. Don't ask, you don't have a right to ask questions. We said do it. Compliant to the point of detrimental. So that has to be looked at, and what you do, you put in realistic and workable techniques and strategy to do what? To keep you on the straight and narrow. That's what a plan is. It's not just waking up, kind of going day by day. If I feel good here, I'll do this one. No, it's real strategy. This is what I do consistently to make sure that I'm accountable and taking care of myself. Okay, number 3. This will get you more traction than anything else that I'm aware of. And that is to become the participant observer in your life. What is the participant observer? The participant observer is the part of you that sees what is going on. The participant observer is the coach within you. Let me give you an example of the power of this participant observation. I was working with a young lady, and she said, Sheila, for the life of me, I just don't understand how I keep getting into these toxic relationships. I mean, everything starts out fine, and then it goes to hell in a handbasket. And I just don't understand. I said, perhaps you don't understand it because you are on autopilot. You're starting these relationships on autopilot, and you're not getting outside of yourself. Create a part of you that steps outside of yourself and does nothing but observe the circumstances. My participant observer, this individual, I mean, you can have fun with it. You almost make it like a character, if you will. My participant observer, she wears one of those tan, sorry about the noise, guys. Someone's blowing leaves. We'll get through it. She wears a tan jacket, no nonsense, thick glasses. I mean, she's me. She's a version of me. Thick glasses. Sometimes she has a notepad with her to take notes. And boy, she doesn't play. She doesn't miss a beat. That's my coach. That's the internal coach, the observer. And she will draw to my attention. That participant observer asks questions. She'll say, Sheila, girlfriend, how much sense does that make? Sheila, does that sound like BS to you? Sounds like BS to me. But also there, when I'm, making great choices, did you see yourself knock the ball out of the park today? That is amazing. So you got to develop that inner coach, that inner voice, that observer who sees all, who advises you. And this is the thing, developing the participant observer within you is not enough. You also have to develop the discipline and the respect for that participant observer to follow the strategies and advice provided to you. The observations, the action items given, act on the action items. So that's it. That's the key right there. Participant observation changes everything. Sometimes people have reached out to me for help, and they'll say, Sheila, I'm working on this, that, or the third thing. And all I work on with them is becoming the participant observer. Because when you see it clearly, when you start to see things clearly, you can boot, scoot, and boogie. As soon as you see it clearly, you are in a position, I'll say it again, to boot, scoot, and boogie. Trust me, it's a game changer. Now, lastly, what about if you've done some work on yourself, and if you have, I applaud you, but you're dealing with someone in your life who's off the chain, and they are clearly emotionally immature. Well, here's what you can do. If you decide to keep them in your life, for various reasons, you may decide you don't want them in your life if it's too stressful. But if you decide to keep them in your life, you have to work around them. You're going to have to hold them accountable. What you want to do is model mature behavior. With these people, you're going to have to draw attention to their behavior. Sometimes you have to just stop them and pull them out of kind of the nonsensical spirals. Are you seeing yourself? Are you hearing yourself? This doesn't make any sense. You're really role modeling for them in every way you can. The ability to stop, bring it down 1,000, and to become aware. It really can be stressful and difficult. But I'll tell you, you have so many people in this world. No one is perfect. But gosh, everyone, let's all do our work. Let's all do our work. Because when you don't do that mental health work on yourself, People in your life pay for that, and it's just wrong, and there's untold suffering behind it. And then lastly, this is a channel about the spiritual, the practical, mental health. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you, as always, you don't have to be out here and do this by yourself. Call on the forces that are behind us, the hand of God. Call on your angels. I want resources. I want to change. I want the wherewithal. You can't pray that prayer and not have it answered, my friends. So I hope this has been useful information about this topic of arrested development. Hey, hit the subscribe button. Don't be selfish. Share the news of the channel with your friends and family. And I'll be back real soon. Thank you.